All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're looking at a single chapter from an ancient document that has had a massive impact on the world, the Gospel of Mark, chapter 15. We're going to walk through this text almost minute by minute and see how it actually tells the story of an execution. So, this is really the big question we're trying to answer. We're not just reading a story, we're kind of taking it apart to see how it works. How does this writer use time, specific little details, and even the words of witnesses to build such a powerful narrative? Let's find out. Okay, so first things first, let's look at the timeline. What's incredible is how compressed this whole account is. Everything happens in less than a day. It gives the whole chapter this tight, urgent feel, where every few hours something major happens, just building the tension from morning until night. So the account kicks off with a procession, and you have to understand this wasn't some quiet back alley affair. No, this was a public spectacle. The whole journey to the execution site is presented as this formal public walk to a place they called Golgotha. And right in the middle of this procession, the writer zooms in on this one fascinating random detail. A man named Simon from a place called Cyrene is apparently just walking in from the countryside when soldiers grab him and force him to carry the cross. And get this, the text even names his sons, Alexander and Rufus. It's this tiny detail that makes it feel so real, almost like the original readers might have known these guys. And this is their destination, Golgotha. The text is very clear, giving us both the name and its translation, the place of the skull. I mean, that name alone just sets this incredibly grim and visceral stage for what's about to happen, doesn't it? Right before the crucifixion itself, there's this quick little interaction. He's offered wine mixed with myrrh, which was probably a kind of pain reliever. But the text is super direct here. He didn't take it. And that's it. It's just stated as a fact, leaving you to wonder about the why. Okay, so the journey is over, and now the narrative shifts. We're at the crucifixion itself, and the focus turns immediately to the words being thrown around, the official charge, and then the insults from the crowd. And again, notice how precise this is. The writer pins the event to a specific time, 9 in the morning. This isn't some vague, once-upon-a-time story. It's being presented as a factual report happening on a real day. This was the official legal reason for the execution, put on display for everyone to read. And the irony is just thick, isn't it? The Roman authorities are executing him under the title the King of the Jews, a title his own religious leaders had completely rejected. So you have that official charge. And then you have the mockery from the chief priests and law teachers. They literally take his supposed titles, Messiah, King of Israel, and they twist them into a taunt, a challenge, based on how powerless he seems in that moment. And the text is careful to point out that the scorn was coming from all sides. It wasn't just one group. You had random people walking by, the highest religious authorities, and even the 2 criminals being executed right alongside him. The sense of total isolation is just palpable. Now, the story takes a really dramatic turn. Right at midday, when the sun should be at its absolute brightest, the natural world itself seems to shift. The tone changes from all this human cruelty to something much more cosmic. The text tells us this wasn't just a passing cloud. It was a 3-hour-long darkness that covered the entire land, starting at noon and lasting all the way until 3 in the afternoon. It's like this unnatural twilight just hangs over the whole scene, setting the stage for the end. And right at 3 o'clock, at the very end of that darkness, the silence is broken by a loud cry. And what's really interesting is the writer gives us the words in the original Aramaic, Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, before immediately translating them for the reader. My God, why have you forsaken me? But even in this huge, climactic moment, there's still confusion on the ground. Some of the bystanders mishear Eloi and think he's calling out for the prophet Elijah. It leads to one last cynical moment where someone offers him a drink and says, let's just wait and see if Elijah comes to get him. And then the end comes. And it's described with such stark simplicity. After all the accusations, all the mockery, all the cosmic signs, the text just says, with a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. That's it. It's so factual, so unadorned. But the story doesn't pause for a breath. The moment he dies, the narrative immediately pivots to the consequences, showing us 2 incredible reactions, one supernatural and one from a totally unexpected human source. The first thing that happens is this immense symbolic event. The curtain of the temple, this huge, heavy veil separating the most sacred space from everything else is torn in half. And the writer adds that tiny detail from top to bottom, implying it was an act of God, not of man. The second reaction is honestly just as stunning. It doesn't come from a follower. It comes from the Roman centurion, the soldier in charge of the whole execution. The text says that seeing how he died is what prompted him to say, "Surely this man was the Son of God." It's a complete narrative bombshell. And with that, the chapter's final section pivots back to something very practical. Evening is coming, which means the Sabbath is about to begin. So there's this urgent need to get the body buried properly before sunset. And this is where a new character steps into the story. Joseph of Arimathea. He's described as a respected member of the very same council that condemned Jesus, but he now takes this enormous, courageous step forward. The text lays out his actions in this very methodical, step-by-step way. He goes boldly to the governor, Pilate. He gets official permission. He confirms the death with the centurion. He buys the proper linen cloth, wraps the body, and places it in a brand new tomb cut out of the rock. He does everything by the book. And just as the chapter named the witnesses to the crucifixion, it ends by naming the witnesses to the burial. Mary Magdalene and another Mary are there. They watch the whole process and they see exactly where the body is laid. And that detail, as you can imagine, is going to be incredibly important for what comes next. And that's where chapter 15 leaves us, with this quiet, final, and definite image. A body in a tomb, behind a stone, its location known by witnesses. So the question I'll leave you with is this. In a story filled with so much noise and action and spectacle, what's the power in choosing to end on this note of silent, observed finality?